Everyone thinks long runs are some magical thing that you must do to become a better runner. But the real question is, who actually needs long runs? How long is a long run? And can you go too long? My name is Nicklas, I'm a sports scientist, physiotherapist and former professional triathlete. And in this video, I'm going to show you why running more miles does not equal better performance. How long your long run should be depending on your training and on your goal. What long runs actually do to your body. And what to do instead if you don't have the time or you hate long runs. But before we dive into tactics, let's first define what a long run even is. And how long should it be? In a scientific review from 2022 where they looked at the traits of world-class runners, they define a long run like this. Low intensity steady state running that is 1 to 2 kilometers per hour slower than marathon pace. A typical duration is 45 to 120 minutes for track runners and 75 to 165 for marathon runners. So for example, in my latest training block leading up to a half marathon, I would have some progressive long runs where the later half of the run was faster than the first half of that run. Whenever I train athletes, I'll usually also include what's called pickups during their long runs. So that means that every 10 or 15 minutes, they'll have to pick up the pace for about 100 meters. We do this to make sure that the technique and form holds up as they get tired, so they sort of refocus, but also just to break up the monotony. That way, it's just easier to get through and it's not that boring. But now you're probably wondering, if a long run ranges from 45 to 165 minutes, that's a big gap. So how do you know how long your run should be? This is where it gets a bit tricky because there's no exact science showing exactly what each individual's long run should be for each individual goal. However, there are some guidelines that we can follow. This study from 2020 found that the runners whose longest training run was less than 25 kilometers experienced slower marathon times, averaging around 13 minutes longer than those whose longest run was longer than 25 kilometers. But they also found that running more than 35 kilometers in one session did not make you faster compared with the longest endurance run of 30 to 35 kilometers. Legendary running coach Jack Daniels recommends that the longest run is about 20 to 25% of your total weekly volume. So that means that if you run for 4 to 5 hours per week, then your longest run should only be 1 hour. So what can we take from all this? A long run is low intensity, steady state running slower than marathon pace. More miles is not always better, and your longest run needs to be longer if you're training for a marathon compared to a 5K. The long run needs to be 20 to 25% of your total weekly volume, but no more than 35 kilometers in one session. Alright, so now that we know what a long run is and how long it should be, that leads to the next question. Why even do long runs in the first place? What are they actually doing for your body? Let me tell you a story. Back when I was a professional triathlete, I had these notorious hard Sundays. I would swim 6 kilometers in the morning, then go for a bike ride of around 4 hours, and then finish off the day with a 90-minute run. Basically, I trained more than a half Ironman each Sunday. And back then, every single Sunday was this big mental battle because when I got to that last run, that last 90-minute run, I just was so fatigued and I just looked at the couch and it looked so inviting and I just wanted to stay at home and relax. And at the time I was racing what's called Sprint Triathlon. So I was doing 750 meter swim, then 20 kilometer bike ride and then 5 kilometer run. And that is an event that takes less than an hour. So what I was doing on Sundays was not specific at all. And contrary to what some people say, long runs alone does not make you faster in shorter races. But after years of training this way, I came to realize something. When you know in your core, because you have the evidence that you can conquer something that is so much longer and basically so much more fatiguing than a short race, then when you get to the shorter race, it's so much easier to push yourself that much harder. Simply because you have the evidence that you can endure. And one of the key benefits of the long run is that mental game that you develop. And the most crazy part is it carries over to other parts of life as well. At least for me, I noticed that hard things were suddenly not that hard anymore because I had something so much harder to compare it to. But besides the mental game, what do long runs actually do to your body. A scientific review from 2007 found that there are 5 key transformations that happen when you do long runs. First, long runs make your muscles better at using oxygen. Inside your muscles are tiny power plants called mitochondria. Long runs help you build more of them, and they get better at turning oxygen into energy. Basically, more mitochondria means that you get more energy and you don't tire out as quickly. Second, long runs help grow new blood vessels. Inside our bodies are these tiny blood vessels called capillaries. They act as highways, bringing oxygen into your muscles and carrying away waste. More capillaries gives us a faster delivery of oxygen. Third, your body gets better at burning fat for fuel. When you run slow for a long time, your body gets better at using fat for energy instead of carbs. So why does that matter? Because our bodies have way more fat stored than carbs. So even though your body will probably turn to carbs for the primary energy source, if you can use some fat, then you can save some energy for when you really need it. Like at the end of a race. Fourth, your heart gets stronger. Long runs increase the amount of blood your heart can pump with each beat. That means your heart doesn't have to work as hard. And then it can send more oxygen to your legs when you really need it. And fifth, your body gets better at clearing lactic acid. Lactic acid is the stuff that builds up as you run, and suddenly you can't run any further or any faster. Long runs train your body to get rid of it more quickly so that you don't hit the wall as soon. So, what can we take from all this? Long runs don't just build mental toughness or help you rack up the weekly miles. They actually change your body so you can run for longer and stay in control. So that begs the question, who actually needs long runs? The truth is, anyone looking to improve performance in anything more than a 400-meter all-out sprint could probably benefit from a long run. However, this review from 2022 found that for track runners running 5 to 10K, 120 minutes seems to be the max for world-class performers. For marathoners, it's closer to 165 minutes. Alright, so how can we add long runs to our schedules to maximize performance but minimize injury risk? First up, progress gradually. No 10K to 25K jump because you got inspired by a YouTube video. Second, add some pace variety. Don't just zombie shuffle for 2 hours. Sprinkle in some fast sprints or finish that last 20% just a little bit stronger. Third, recover properly. Your long run isn't over until you've eaten, rehydrated, and slept on it. And fourth, don't chase long runs for Strava likes. This is training to get better, not social media clout. But what if you don't have time to go for a long run, or you hate long runs? Are there anything we can do? I've seen 3 different strategies work. The first one is double run days. So for example, you do 60 minutes in the morning and then 60 minutes in the afternoon. This builds fatigue resistance, but you will lose a bit of the mental benefits. The second is long interval sessions. Stuff like 5 times 10 minutes at threshold pace or tempo pace with a 1-minute break can help you get some of the same tiredness. And then cross training. A long bike ride or a long swim can help you get some of the same central adaptations, but you just won't get the same pounding to your joints as when you're running. So in the long term, it's probably not the best approach. So here's the TLDR for you. A long run is just steady state running slower than marathon pace. And for 5 to 10K runners, at least the world top performers, it's about 45 to 120 minutes. And for marathoners, also world-class performers, it's about 165 minutes. It should be about 20 to 25% of your overall weekly volume, but no more than 35 kilometers in one go. Long runs on their own don't make you faster, but they build the foundation that allows you to train harder and recover better. Long runs boost your mitochondria, grow new blood vessels, improve fat burning, and strengthen your heart. They also train your brain, making tough runs and race day feel easier. Progress gradually, mix up the pace, and recover properly. And don't run long to impress people who don't even care on Strava. While nothing can completely replace a long run, if you really hate them or don't have the time, you can try double runs, tempo runs or long intervals, and cross training. But the long run is only one of 5 key workouts that you need to include in your training if you want to be the best runner you can be. So to make sure you take advantage of the other 4, you should watch this video next, where I'll also show you how to run significantly faster in just 50 days.